I believe you said that Tier-1 support is on its way out.
And we did this. We analyzed over 100 job postings, bring AI to the enterprise, to the customer experience team, and help identify issues, to resolve issues, and to help customers before they're going to get unhappy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex.
And my name is OP.
Welcome to AI on Fire, the podcast where ideas sparks, code burns, and the future of AI takes shapes through the real stories from the builders behind it.
Every fire has three elements: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Control those and you control the flame. That's how we think about AI too. Not something to contain, but something to shape.
And today, we're turning up the heat with Chandan Maruthi, founder and CEO of Twig.so, a platform that helps support teams use AI to handle customer questions faster, more accurately. Twig focuses on giving teams trustworthy answers, reducing repetitive work, and keeping the human touch where it matters most. Welcome, Chandan.
Thank you for having me here, Alex and OP.
Thanks for joining. And before we jump in, I have the first question. I love to hear your journey, right? So you've worked in enterprise AI and customer experience for years. What was the spark that led you to create Twig?
Yeah, the two parts of my journey before Twig led me into this path. I was a customer success manager for a company called Zyme based in Redwood Shores. I would meet with customers like Plantronics, Sonos, Netgear, SonicWall, VMware, Brocade, everybody in the Sunnyvale, Santa Clara area, and then down south, and also in LA. As a customer success manager, I realized two things. One is that the role was impossible to do. You were assigned to about 20 to 25 accounts, and the number of users in those accounts in total were about 1,000 users, and you could humanly not speak to all those users frequently. And so you had the time you got to know when there was an issue was when things got escalated at the customer place, and your stakeholder got to know there's an issue, which means you had already lost several months of time you could have used to resolve these issues. And so I realized that this was a very critical role, but also a very inefficient process. That, along with me spending a few years working at H2O.ai, building auto ML products, brought me the thoughts that, okay, we now have the technology to use unstructured data and to identify insights and to provide users insights to then help resolve problems. So those two things together helped me think about building a product like Twig, which is designed to bring AI to the enterprise, to the customer experience team, and help identify issues, to resolve issues, and to help customers before they're going to get unhappy.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I believe you said that Tier-1 support is on its way out, and the agent will handle the bulk of repetitive cases. Yeah. And what moment made you realize that actually the world was ready for that kind of shift?
So the best way to think about this is to look at a job posting for a Tier-1 support agent. And we did this. We analyzed over 100 job postings. And what you realize is there are a few things that are very common, which is you should be the first point of contact. You would be able to resolve questions. A third of the questions the customer can find themselves. It just may not be evident where the information is. Another third of the times, you need to help the customer resolve issues which they don't have access to themselves, some admin systems. And the third one would be where the customer can't resolve it, you can't resolve it with some basic internal tools. So now you need to get access to people. And so now you have to triage that request to somebody internal to the company. And when you see these things that are requested in the job posting of a Tier-1 support agent, you realize, wait a minute, this is what your AI can do right now. And that was the impetus of thinking about how can we augment that role. Now, just like a self-driving car, you have different stages. There were maps like Google Maps that all of us use, and then there were these lane assist kind of technologies, and then there was self-driving with your hands on and self-driving with your hands off, and so on. I think roles in the organization will go through a similar phase where AI, a lot of companies are in the Google Maps stage of AI, which is AI is telling them what to do, but AI is not doing it. humans are doing it. And slowly we are getting into this lane assist role where it's doing a very specific thing automatically, but overseen by a human. And then we'll very quickly get to that next stage where um, AI is doing the driving. It can be scary, and there'll be a lot of controls that need to be built in, but that's the direction that we are going. And it's not going to happen overnight. There'll be a lot of stories that you will hear of companies jumping the gun and announcing that they've already done it, and in a few months they will end up having to roll back such initiatives. But there is a middle path, and the middle path is growing strong. I always like to think of Amazon and books. Amazon took the least sexy category in e-commerce, which was books, but they focused on doing it right for a very long period of time. They got the store in place, online store, they got the delivery in place, the warehouses in place, the packaging in place. And when by the time they were ready and when they said they were done with books, they were able to offer every other category in a few years, and they became the leader in that. And I believe the same thing with customer experience as well, that this is one of the most boring categories to be in. But if you get it right here, you will get it right across the organization. And that's why it's important for us to do the most boring thing that you could think of in AI.
Same as Elon Musk, right? The most boring company. But
Yeah.
you mentioned the self-driving cars, right? So for self-driving cars, accuracy is really important. And trust, I think, is even more important because people wouldn't ride the self-driving cars if they don't trust it, right? So when did you first realize that answer validation should be the foundation of Twig's approach?
So when with all the customers, we have in the early days, we have a weekly check-in, and once they are in a stable state, we have a bi-weekly check-in. And last year, when I used to go into these meetings, I would be scared because I did not know what to expect. I did not know if the customer would be happy and say thank you, or they would be mad at us, or they would say we're canceling the contract because it's not working. I was scared because I did not know what to expect. And so for me, building the evaluation framework was critical to keep my own sanity in check because I wanted to know what's going on. I wanted to know if our system is doing a good job on a day-to-day basis. And initially, like when we first got started, I would actually sit down and manually look at these answers. But once usage increased and we were seeing thousands of questions being asked every week, it was not possible for me to do that anymore. So by not having an evaluation system, I would be constantly anxious that I don't know what's going on. I don't know if my customers are happy. Post building the evaluation system, the first person that was happy was me because I was like, okay, fine, the system's actually doing what it's supposed to do. Not just that, we had a metric. We're like, okay, 8 out of 10 times we are answering questions at a level of accuracy that we accept. And then this week we continue to be at 8. Okay, now we are at 9. Oh, wait, it went back to 8. What happened? Okay, something changed. Some data source was added, which is not properly chunked and ingested. Okay, let's get it back to 8. But there was a line we could track with evaluation, which was missing before evaluation. So it went from if you think of cars, it's like driving, with driving on a clear day versus driving on a day where it's raining heavily, where you just don't know what's going on and you're just hoping that you can get to the place where you want to get. So evaluation was almost like windshield wipers for us. It made us see the road. It made us see how our customers were doing with the system that we had delivered.
So it looks like you put like great efforts into evaluation and understand how it works and making sure that like it works properly. Every product, even like every great product, has this moment when user builds something or maybe use in a way that like actually surprise even founder. So do you remember the first time a customer used Twig in a way that completely blew your mind?
Yeah. So one of our customers, we sold it into the customer experience team. We didn't know that their customer experience team was also they had the sales engineers were part of that team, and so they were also doing the job of filling in RFPs. And once when I met our stakeholder, she said, "Hey, some of our users are extremely happy." And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And we just had lots of RFPs that come in last month, and it would have taken about 2 weeks to complete an RFP before Twig, and with Twig, it took 2 days because they got the first pass answers immediately, and they were able to spend the next day reviewing it and getting it where it needs to be. And she said that this gave their company a lead in winning deals because now they could quickly get through the RFP and focus on the sort of non-tangible things that help them close that deal. It makes sense in hindsight because it's just RFPs are
2
questions.
weeks into days, so it's a headline.
Totally. It makes sense looking back. But in the moment, we had not thought the sales team or the team that's completing RFPs would find a need for Twig. The other thing that was very interesting to us is once the customer experience team used it and they were happy with it, the next board meeting, the executives showed what they had launched within the company. And the sales team saw that and said, wait a minute, I have 100 salespeople who are getting these kinds of questions every day. I need this for my sales team. So that was interesting to us as well. We never imagined we would be used by salespeople because that was not our ICP. We are selling to the VP of customer experience. That very naturally sort of expanded within the company to other organizations. And the third thing that was very interesting is engineering reached out to us and they said at a customer places that, hey, we are building internal AIs, which are very, like one customer is a marketing customer, the other one is an identity customer. They said, we are building AIs which are very specific to our domain, but this also needs to do the thing that Twig does. And so we don't want to replicate what you guys have done. Can you give us an API to access Twig? And that's when we thought, oh, okay, so now we need to do. So my first call was, oh, do you want a REST API? They're like, no, could you do MCP? Okay, sure.
Customer-driven development.
So you build your own MCPs back then?
Yeah, so we have built our MCP server, which can be consumed within tools like Claude and others. We have not yet widely launched it because one of the issues with MCP today is authentication. The top ones support OAuth. They haven't yet, I've not seen a good implementation of API key based authentication. So we're trying to figure out those intricacies. But to me, it was surprising because when I go into these events and everybody's saying, oh, we have MCP, we have MCP. I'm like, wait a minute, how is it possible? Because the stack itself is not ready yet.
Nobody knows what MCP is, right? There are no best practices or standards. And as you mentioned, security is like a huge pain in the bottom, right? So it's just the next person who build an AI agents for AI security would be awesome. Would be like a billionaire.
It feels like in the industry today, everybody's built V0 of something and it continuously trying to look for the V0 of the next thing. While in order for these things to be useful in business, they need to go down each of these pillars and do V2, V3, and V4 and make these things actually useful. Because all these things sound cool, but they're useful when the customer can tell us that, look, we actually saved 100 hours last week, or we were able to double our capacity with this. And all of those will require multiple versions to be built. And that's sort of the trade-off. You want to build the next cool thing, but then in order for it to be useful to existing customers, you need to go deeper in what you're doing.
Exactly. And one question that I got to ask, what Twig stands for?
There are two reasons why we called it Twig. We wanted a neutral name because startups pivot all the time and you don't know what you'll be working on in 6 months if you have not yet found a product market fit. So we wanted a name that could mean anything, like Uber could be anything. So we wanted a name that was neutral enough. So we started looking at domains that we could buy, and Twig.so was available. We were able to buy it. And so of the few different ideas we had, we bought the domain that was available at the time. And so that was Twig. So it, of course, it means like a part of a plant, right? Twig, but it's supposed to be a neutral word that could be anything.
What is the biggest misconception about AI-driven support that you see and you wish people would drop?
Yeah. So most implementations of AI are not there yet. Right? They are human augmented AI is, well, no AI is most common, and then human augmented AI is getting more and more prevalent. And then AI driven support is the holy grail that has not yet been fully cracked. And the way I found it very hard to make sense of this myself. So I went on a journey to understand what are agents and what agents should be. The best way I can explain this is if you take the job posting of a tier 1 support engineer and say, what do these people do? And the question is, the more uh, the lines on that job description an AI can do by itself, it'll be a more real alternative to a human doing that role. And so, if you just take the tier 1 example, so when you get a customer question, the first thing you do is, should I even answer this question? Let's say somebody asks pricing to support, you're not going to answer that question. You're going to connect that person to a salesperson on your team. So the agent should be able to first decide whether I'll even answer. So that's a triaging step. Once you decide, okay, this is something I can answer, then you attempt to answer the question, and then you verify if it's a good answer. If it's not a good answer, then you don't answer. You stop there, and then you escalate it. You take help. So the difference between what we have today and what we will see in the coming months, and also even years to get this right, is going to be agents that behave like humans, which is they're like, okay, should I even do this? If I do this, am I able to do this? And then if I am, yes, I'm able to do this, then I will go and send it to the customer. If I don't, then I will try to do an agentic back and forth until I can resolve the problem. And if I still can't do it, then I'll escalate it to another person. The only example, I've seen 2 examples till date which I think are really agentic. Cursor, which lets you write code. You can see that when you ask a question, Cursor is thinking about, first it's reframing the question. It's saying, I think what you said is this. And then it's trying to look at all the steps it needs to do. And then it's going to do those steps. And then it's going to, and Cursor did not have this until recently, it's able to test itself. And it's going to fix itself. And then it say, okay, now I've tested it, it looks good, right? So Cursor is a good example of an agentic flow. And another example I've seen is Lovable, where the same thing, but for a specific use case of websites, where they also take care of hosting it. I think those are 2 good examples I've seen of a completely agentic workflow that actually works. The same thing will also happen in support. And we are going in that direction. But um, uh, there's a reason why it's not yet happened completely, and the reason is the engineer's workflow is completely internal, and the engineer is still deciding whether they want to use it, or they're going to click that back button and say, no, let's do this again, right? So it's still human, although it's very agentic, it's still human oversight. Whereas the customer support workflow, if you put it out in the wild, it's talking to your customers, and that's a higher risk situation. So it's great that these real agents are being tested in these cursor and lovable kind of experiences where they're very internal, but the workflows that they're using are exactly what you need for any agent experience. So it's good that they're being tested there, and we're all getting to see how a good pattern to implement the right kinds of agents. Now, these will definitely be seen in our customer experience as well, but the risk there is it's end user facing. So these things have to be, if you're able to launch Cursor with a, say, 3 out of 10 level of confidence, that level of confidence should be like a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 for customer experience. And hence the natural, delay in why these things are not real yet.
Yeah, because you don't want to lose the customers, right?
You don't.
Yeah, if you lose the customers, who need agents anymore?
Yes, that is true. Yeah.
All right. I think I have one last question before we get to the fire drill. So founders are like firefighters, right? So they get burned. From time to time, they get burned good, like light or bad. So what was the moment where something went totally sideways for you? And what this moment actually teach you, what you learned from it?
Yeah, if I think back, one of our customers, we deployed the solution after about 2 months. I had not spoken to the customer in 2 months because I had another person in our company who was maintaining that relationship. I was focused on acquiring new customers. I get a call from this customer and they say, hey, I think we're going to cancel this contract. I say, okay, let's talk. What happened? The customer says, oh, the answers are really bad. So then I say, okay, give me some time. I don't know what's going on. Give me some time. And I literally took 50 questions, and the answers they received with Twig, the answers they received with ChatGPT. And I went through each one of those answers manually, reading what is happening. because I couldn't solve a problem that I did not understand. And then we identified several things that we had to do to get this right. That was one of the reasons we actually built out our evaluation framework, because we wanted to know that we were not doing a good job before our customers told us. And that's when I mentioned I was anxious going into these meetings. This is exactly what I meant, where I was afraid that people would say, this is not working, let's cancel the contract. But after building our evaluation system, we know exactly where it's going. We are able to go into the customers meeting and say, hey, here's how we did, here's what's not working, and here's what we need from you to get this right. I think AI systems without evaluation are going to be extremely uncertain, and enterprises don't like uncertain
And
systems.
untrustable at all, right?
Yeah.
So nobody wants to use this system anymore. All right, thanks. It's time for our fire drill. So fire drill, we have 10 questions. We need
Okay.
short answers, one
All right.
sentence maximum.
Yeah.
If you're ready, let's set the
Yeah.
fire up. Ding, 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 ding.
Let's do it.
All right. So, AI support agents, revolution, illusion, or evolution?
Evolution.
All right. Which wins long term, automation or augmentation?
It has to be augmentation.
Or both, right? So we don't have
Yeah,
augmentation without automation.
Of course, of course. There will be a certain level of oversight that needs to be there. Oversight will have to happen at scale. And so for that, you need automation as well.
All right. So, better founder skill, empathy or execution?
Empathy, because you can't solve something that you don't understand.
Yep. Most underrated AI startup or an agent, not yours.
I would say Cursor. It's what Cursor is doing today is going to transform the speed at which technology is being built, and I think it's very, very important.
Would you ever let AI agent run your customer success calls?
Yes, I know the path to it, and I think there are several steps that we need to address before we get there. But I think yes, we are on that direction, and it will happen within the next 24 months.
That's interesting and promising. All right. Acquired early or grind to a unicorn?
Grind to a unicorn. It's just fun. What else would you do?
Yeah, building, building, building.
Oh, just go relax, on the beach or. So, what is a bigger killer in startups? Hype, complexity, or ego?
Actually, it's another one, which is just getting tired. If you don't set yourself in a mindset where you need to have a mindset where you're saying, this is going to happen. It's going to take time, but it's going to happen. And the way to get there is to have real concrete growth. Go after vanity metrics like, oh, so many visitors, so much money raised. The real metric says how much are your customers using your product, how many new accounts you're adding, and how many you're not losing. That's the metric that was true 20 years ago. That's true today. And that's the most unsexy thing to do, but if you stick to that, you will build a real company, and you don't need validation from anybody else to tell you. It's only a customer who tells you that you're on the right path.
Same with podcast listeners, right? Subscribe, share with friends, whatever. We need more listeners.
Yes.
All right. One Twig feature customers love and you absolutely hate.
That's a good one. The feedback feature, which I feel like AI should be smart enough to evaluate itself, but we also realize that customers love it because they feel like they are in control, and they are able to provide guidance to the system. So although it feels counterintuitive that in the age of AI you need this human feedback loop, turns out customers love it because it's a way for them to be part of the solution. Whereas as an engineer, you're like, oh, why do we need that? We can just put more AI to solve that.
Yeah, awesome.
So, this one is tricky one, but be honest. So, if Twig disappeared tonight, what's the one feature customer will miss the most?
The ability to respond to their customers quickly. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to find the information, and it's a lot of intense brain work for them to do it. With Twig, they are able to get a very high quality, very an evolved answer. Yeah, there's a slightly longer story I'll explain later, but the ability to quickly answer to customers and have their customers say, wow, you guys are so
All right. I think the last one, most overrated buzzword in AI right now, in AI industry.
I would say it's both overrated and underrated at the same time, and that's agents. And it's overrated because everybody says it's talks about it, and it's underrated because no, 99% of the people that say they do agents, they don't do agents. But the 1% who are doing agents are building like really, really sophisticated workflows that can actually replace human workflows in the jobs that they do. So it is both overrated and underrated at the same time. I think this happened in the dot-com boom. We saw a lot of companies saying a lot of things, and then after the bust, the companies that actually did the real job and the ones that could survive built big companies. I think that's the same thing here. There's a lot of noise around agents. That is, but there's some work happening underneath that is very, very important. So it's very easy to just say, look at agents and say, oh, this is a noise, let's ignore it. But no, there is like a percentage of the companies working on this that are building very, very meaningful outcomes.
All right.
Yes, this is a
Awesome.
great
Yeah,
answer.
that's
Yeah, I
interesting.
love it.
Fire drill is over. Now we're getting to the final sections, the forecast. So 1 year from now, what's something about AI-powered support that most people will be totally wrong about?
We will not see all of tier 1 being replaced with AI, but we will see, so we'll not see it replaced by AI. There will still be a lot of human involvement, but human throughput and capacity will increase significantly. So there'll be more support available for all customers because now the same team has more time to be able to spend with the customers. So we'll see that, and we will start seeing examples of completely autonomous support emerging in like very, very small narrow scenarios.
So you mentioned like when you was talking about buzzwords that like a lot of hype, yeah. So like when the hype smoke clears, yeah, what do you think in support or like in general AI agent will actually give back to customer teams? So the part maybe we are not talking enough or still missing in the conversation. So what we get
Yeah,
back from
yeah. So today the conversation about support has always been how to increase efficiency or reduce headcount. The conversation I don't hear about is that we just need more support. So historically, the way support has worked is if you are enterprise tier customer, you can directly reach a human. If you are a professional tier customer, you can send an email. Otherwise, you can't. You just look up the help docs, right? Now with AI and with AI agents, you can have a human-like AI be available for all these price points. So a lot more support, right? So the question is not about reducing headcount or reducing something. The question is about how can we offer more support? How can we offer every user of your product an AI that's right sitting next to you, watching what you do, guiding you through when you get stuck, and unblocking your issues, and not just that, understanding what you came here to achieve. Right? You bought a marketing product. Your goal was to run a campaign and get certain views. Walk with you through that journey and see that you actually get that goal that you wanted, right? I think that is just more support, more success. That is the real outcome of AI that isn't getting enough visibility because everybody are looking at the processes in place today. If for a minute, if you completely ignore the process in place today and say, what if you had unlimited support people available? What would you do? You would, every time somebody logs into your product, you would have a person sitting right there and saying, I'm here, I'm watching what you're doing, I'll be here to unblock you, right? You do that if you had unlimited support people, and that's what will happen with AI. That's the story that needs to get told.
That's
If I
cool.
have unlimited support people, I would train them so they become engineers and can write something.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's time to set the fire down. Chandan, any final thoughts or things you want to share with the audience?
Yeah. I'm an engineer and we're constantly building at the edge of AI. A few years ago it was retrieval augmented generation, then it was agents, now it's MCP. And anytime you go out there to hackathons, to events, you realize everybody's talking about the next best thing. And now it's MCP is the hottest thing out there. But what you realize is almost everybody has V0 of all these things, and the real value is created in V1, V2, V3 of these technologies. And we realized there are 20 different strategies that you can use for retrieval augmented generation. Most companies are not even aware that these strategies are available for them to use. So we put together a book. It's a free book that you can download. We'll share the link below. But you can get the book, take a look at the different strategies in place, and share it with your dev teams. See which strategy you've already deployed and which strategy would be interesting for you for your use case. We believe everything that we are looking at today has to go through several iterations and several versions before they become very useful. Just like GPT versus GPT, the things it can do is just amazing. Just like that, I think all these technologies we're talking about have evolution to take place, and they'll be valuable only when we do the hard work that will get us there.
Thanks, Chandan. We'll add all the links in the description below. Check them out.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. That was amazing episode, and learn more. Even like I have been working with customer success for some time, and still, like you keep learning. Thank you for coming, and I believe that's it for today's Yeah and Fire. So huge thanks, Chandan, for jumping into flames with us.
Thank you. This was a pleasure. It's always amazing. You guys are doing an amazing job getting the community together, getting visibility to companies that are building at the edge of technology.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chandan. And remember, hype spreads fast, but only the real fire keeps burning. See you next time.